And finally, the final category is cards which I've been considering for inclusion into the deck. Um, Okay, cards I've been considering for inclusion into the deck because lots of people make more than one EDH deck, and I often hear because they say they get bored with the deck. In my experience, if you're getting bored with your deck, you're not playing the game properly because you should always be tinkering in an attempt to improve your deck. So these are various cards which I've considered. Some of them I've had in the deck at one point or another. Um, I'll go through them briefly because you're probably not all that interested. Lotus Petal, this is another mana acceleration. I haven't put it in because it is only a one-time use. It does help get Zur out more quickly. Stroke of Genius, like I mentioned, this is an alternative to Opportunity. It scales much better, so late game when you have the extra mana, this is better than Opportunity. But when you just want to get as many cards as you can, you're just getting up to 6 mana. Opportunity is obviously better. Dominating Licit, this card used to be in the deck. I find that it usually doesn't survive long enough to use its activated ability. It allows you to, it turns into an enchantment for 3 and tap. It turns into an enchantment, gains control of a creature, and you can turn it back into this creature for 1. So you can sort of play around with that. But I find that unless you give it haste with Lightning Greaves, it won't survive long enough to use its activated ability because people obviously perceive it to be a threat, which it is. Send Triplets, this is a useful sort of control effect. I don't play it because it just tends to paint an even bigger target on your head, and you're already playing Zur, which paints a pretty big target. And it's very dependent on your opponent's playing colors that are having spells that are compatible with your colors. So I find it's just too contingent and not worth the cost of being targeted more often. What else would I read? Ethersworn Adjudicator. It's a Mortify on a stick, and you can untap it. So obviously late game, this is a card which I could foreseeably put in. It fills sort of the same role as Angel of Despair. I prefer Angel of Despair just because it happens right away and you don't have to wait a turn. And again, like Dominating Licit, this will frequently not survive the turn to be able to use its ability. Crystal Shard. I've seen a lot of people use Crystal Shard in blue decks. You can use it to return your own stuff to your hand. So if you have a face-up Willbender, you want to be able to play it face down again. Or if you have Angel of Despair, you want to use the ability again. Or you could obviously use it on your opponent's stuff when they're tapped out of mana. This is something I'm strongly considering putting in. Now? Basically. Okay. Prof Spires of Order. This is a utility land. I don't put it in because I find the activation cost very expensive, but I have heard very good things about this because it says prevent all damage a source of your choice would deal this turn. So it doesn't target, so you can prevent damage from things which can't be targeted, and it works on creatures, instant, and sorcery. So it stops all damage from basically anything, but it does cost 6 mana to use, which I haven't included it earlier. Stonecloaker, I've also heard good things about this. It has flash, and the effect is when it comes into play, you have to bounce a creature to your hand, but also you get to exile a card from a graveyard, so it's sort of surprise graveyard hate. I just find there are better options. I run Neil Spellbomb and Rayto Lantern, which I prefer. Zuri's Guildmage. The abilities are obviously very useful. And it's 2 mana for 2/2 is great. Trouble is, as soon as people see you have that, they're not going to be activating their activated abilities when they see you can just counter it. So it's good as a deterrent. I'm still considering it. I'm on the fence about it right now. Swords to Plowshares, like I said, toss up between this and Path to Exile. I might actually have this and Path to Exile. I think I'm considering putting this in instead of Esper Charm. Wing Shards, this is an old favorite from back when when Scourge was all new. I'm thinking of putting this in just because not many people are likely to expect it. Trouble is, it obviously requires people to be attacking. Same thing with Condemn. I used to run Condemn because again it's a tuck effect which works on generals very well, but it requires them to attack, which a lot of people nowadays foresee these types of effects and are hesitant to attack unless they have some sort of protection. Shriekmaw, and I don't have one, but a similar effect would be Bone Shredder. Extra removal, which can also become a creature, is always useful. And card draw, same thing. and Void Mage Husher, stopping activated abilities. These are all effects which are useful, but if you look at the mana cost and even in the evoke cost, 3 for 2 cards is not great. 5 to destroy a non-black non-artifact. There are a lot of black creatures, a lot of artifact creatures. These are cards which are good effect and good sort of on a budget, but I just don't have room for in this deck. Exsanguinate. I just find this is just cheesy. Each player loses X life. It's a powerful effect to be sure. I just I don't find it worth it. Maybe one day I'll include it. Let's see. Seal of Doom I used to run because again you can find it with Zur, but I find Oblivion Ring is simply a better option for taking care of opponents' creatures. And Walking Archive I included because I was trying to find creatures which I could use as blockers and which also made me less of a target, because this obviously is a Howling Mine which lets everyone draw. And obviously you draw one for each counter and you can add counters, so it allows you to control the pace at which you're drawing. I might put this back in, but I'm not convinced that it's worth giving your opponents all that card advantage. Alright, so I'm Robert, and that is my Elder Dragon Highlander Zur the Enchanter deck, and you've been watching MTG Commander on YouTube.